Welcome to Following on India. I'm Jarrod Kimber. With me, as always, is Saurabh Somani. And on the cricket YouTube channel today for talkSPORT, we have some fun times ahead. That was a weird and interesting day of cricket. I think, Saurabh, it would be easy just to talk about the end and how close it felt and everything else. Australia got out to 27-1 at one point, which tells you how much everyone thought this was going to be a draw. But the draw was basically unbackable for a big period of time there. And Australia needed 7 wickets after TE and all these sorts of things. But let's just go back to the start. Australia bowled absolutely crazy to begin with. Mitchell Starc bowled so well, like Bumrah had the day before, that it was impossible to get a wicket because he was moving the ball too far.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when watching it. Like, we have seen this before. We have seen this just yesterday. This is how Bumrah was bowling and Australia were not getting out. And I thought, oh, does that mean that we'll also have a 10th wicket partnership of 50 plus runs when India bat? But yeah, of course, it wasn't quite as dramatic as that. But that first session of Australia bowling, of course, they got bowled out pretty soon. But that first session of bowling, I think after the first hour, it felt like, wow, India have got through unscathed. And then by the time lunch came and it was 33 for 3, you thought, okay, that's like a more accurate reflection of things, like how well Australia have bowled.
I almost felt 33 for 3 was too harsh. It was like the regression was too violent. Let's just start with Rohit. Rohit batted better than Jaiswal. He looked in control. I think there was one short ball where I thought, oh, no, he's going to play, I think he might have hit it back onto his pads or something. He moved his feet well. He looked like he was picking up the ball fine. He then gets a full ball and just sort of throws his hands at it and he's caught it slip. Incredible how at the start of this test match, no one could get caught at slip. And by the end of this test match, everything was flying to slip. But again, Rohit is out cheaply. But this time it didn't look as bad as some of his other innings, but it may not matter now that they've lost the game.
It's the thing with bad form and particularly such dire form that what Rohit has is like, I think your only currency is runs. It doesn't matter if you look in control or not. At the end of the day, you've again not even reached double digits. I tweeted when he made his 9th run that he's finally got more runs than Bumrah has wickets in this series. But and that's not like a happy stat to have, right? And there was another one.
Is it 31 to 30 or something though, was it?
31 to 30, yeah. So it could very well end up with Bumrah having more if Rohit plays the next test. But I saw another stat, which is that Rohit Sharma has the lowest average of any captain visiting Australia for a series of 3+ matches. And that is a list that includes Courtney Walsh. Rohit Sharma has a lower average than Courtney Walsh does.
It's funny because when you said that, I started Googling Mike Brearley to see what Mike Brearley made when he was in Australia. I had forgotten. Luckily for him, Heath Streak never played that many tests, never played a 3-test series. I can't think of too many other bowling captains came out. But that's remarkable, isn't it? The truth is that we are only talking about, realistically, a 4-month form dip. But the problem is that there's another guy with a form dip in the same lineup, and he's old, and so people will start to look beyond him. KL it's one of those things of cricket where it's such a stupid game, right? KL Rahul sitting there for about 40 minutes watching Jaiswal play and miss. He comes out, he gets a ball back of a length, and he does the right thing. He tries to get his bat inside the line, do those leaves that he likes to do under his eyes. Fine, and somehow manages to nick a ball angling back into him and maybe even seaming back into him, right? Like, what a bizarre dismissal.
I mean, you've got a feel for the guy, right? First of all, he's shunted to number 3 when he has done absolutely nothing wrong as an opener. He has been your best batsman in the series up till that point. And then he gets shunted to number 3, and then he gets an absolutely unplayable Jaffa in the first innings, and then he gets another really good ball in the second when he's like you said, he's doing everything correctly, but it just so happens that that ball gets him out, and that's cricket. Like some of those. If he was Marnus, that would have gone like maybe it would have taken his shoulder instead of the bat's shoulder, and but he's KL Rahul, so it takes the edge and it goes to hand, and it's not an outstanding catch, but a pretty sharp catch to. So yeah, it's tough, I think. But KL Rahul, if anything, this match has showed is that I think India are better off with him opening. I don't think he should have been moved down the order at all. But the key thing is, what do you see Rohit Sharma playing the Sydney Test? I don't know. I think it's becoming more and more evident that I don't know. It's likely that he won't carry on after Sydney. But do you see him playing Sydney?
If he's not going to carry on after Sydney, I'm always a pragmatist with these things. Right? I'm just like, if he's not going to carry on after Sydney, I would allow him to have the choice because he's the captain of the team. But I would be saying, look, we want to have a look at some other players at Sydney, if that's okay. If he's going to retire anyway, they might give him the last test. But it's fascinating. Talking about people, so the first 2 wickets sort of came bang bang, and then Virat came out and booed by the Melbourne crowd, cheered by the Indian part of the Melbourne crowd, I suppose. The famous mantra of of Melbourne villains was used, which we can't use on a family-friendly show like this. But so-and-so was a so-and-so was cheered quite brutally. The commentators trying not to mention it on air. Virat moving well, and I again, outside of maybe KL, who didn't face that many balls, but I thought Rohit and Virat looked like they were lining up better than Jaiswal. He seems fine. The minute Mitchell Starc came on, I just went, oh, he's just going to have to play a cover drive here. He can't help himself. He's just going to have to play a cover drive. And that's what he did, and he was gone.
And it's so weird, right, that probably the first mistakes they made, they were gone, Rohit and Virat. So you can you can count them a little unlucky, but like I said before, I think if you have been in a big of a form rut, particularly Rohit, Virat still has a few sparks here and there, and a few scores here and there, but particularly Rohit, if you have been in as much of a form rut as you have, then luck and all that just don't cut it. No, you just need runs. You just need runs. That's it. Like Jaiswal, he'll go back. He played and missed. He drove. He had an LBW shout against him that looked really, really close, like closer than Marnus's against Bumrah also perhaps. And but he has got 78 and 82 in this test, and he's.
I that LBW I thought was out, and as you said, these other 3 guys have made one mistake each and have literally gone. It's phenomenal to see that. Then 33 for 3 at lunch, if I remember correctly. At that stage, I think the overwhelming feeling was that Australia was going to, win quite easily and everything else. My feeling was that India was very close to the magical 35 over mark, where for whatever reason the absolute steam seems to come out of this ball in this Test match. The other thing I started thinking about was Australia have one bowler who's really good against left-handers outside of Nathan Lyon, and that's Josh Hazlewood. And I don't think, the more I was thinking about India bringing in Washington, the more I was thinking that they thought an extra left-hander might be more handy than an extra right-hander, even if he's not as good as Shubman Gill with the bat. So you then had these left-handers in, the steam goes out, and that partnership, Jaiswal suddenly starts to bat a little bit better. Rishabh Pant, a couple of times he played some shots, but realistically he played within himself. It's got to be one of his slowest innings that he's played. They're completely on top, to the point at which Australia is bowling Marnus Labuschagne and Travis Head, right? Like, that's a double capitulation. And I reckon Australia was about 5 overs away from going, well, we can't bowl Starc anymore because of his back and his side and all the stiffness that Starc looks dead, right? Like, by the end of it, I think the physio looked injured from trying to keep Starc on the field, right? That's how much Starc was struggling. And I was thinking, well, they can't bowl Starc again. Cummins has probably got a little bit left in him. They don't want Mitchell Marsh to bowl all that much more from here on in. Like, if India just bat for another 5 or 10 overs, this is done. And then Travis Head bowls a half-tracker to Rishabh Pant, who, to be fair to him, it's not like he top-edged it or anything. He got a big chunk of bat on it. He just didn't quite middle it to one of the longest boundaries, and he's caught a deep mid-wicket, and Sunil Gavaskar has to be angry at him all over again.
I think he was not on commentary that time. Otherwise, the clip would have been viral by now. But Rishabh Pant, I mean, is Pat Cummins a genius for playing on his ego and asking Travis Head to bowl and asking, Constance and all those guys to sort of chunter away at the batsman? Or is Travis Head a genius for playing on Rishabh Pant's ego? Or is Rishabh Pant just going to be kicking himself that I shouldn't have gone for a six? I could have just pulled it along the ground.
Yeah, he could have just smashed it for a four. Look, I mean, I think it fell into Australia's lap a little bit that there were two left-handers. Yeah. They had to get through the overs because they were bowling quite slow again.
Yeah,
it made sense to give Head a few overs. Like I think it made sense in that area, knowing that their next big chance was going to be the second new ball anyway. That's probably what they were thinking, right? If we get a wicket here, that's fine. But we've got two left-handers. We're spinning it away, whatever. But even if you give credit to Australia for Sam Constance getting in his face and for Pat Cummins coming on, when it comes down to it, that's not the ball. Like they would have thought that he would bowl a good ball. Rishabh Pant would get frustrated and try and flick it away or slog it away. It was a dreadful ball that should not be getting out of Test batter. And you feel sorry for Rishabh Pant because he'd actually batted exactly as they would have wanted. He put a little bit of pressure back on. I don't think India ever were likely to win the game, but they got to a point where you were like, I could see how that they could push Australia here, right? Like they weren't just batting for the draw; they were batting quite smart, putting pressure back on, two attacking players, playing within themselves, but still scoring quite easily. And then that happens, and it's just instantly, you just think to yourself, that has opened up the game so massively.
That's the right way. I think right word. Sorry, that just opened up the game. And Pant was batting with so much restraint. You actually did think that there is something coming here at some point. But then that feeling sort of abated because he batted for so long with so much restraint, and you sort of thought that maybe this is how he's going to do it. The dismissal, I agree with you. I don't think they thought that ball will get the wicket, and Australia were probably trying to also get within the over rate because 2 cycles back they missed out on a WTC final because of an over rate points fine, and they are in sight. So if you're Australia at that time, you're thinking, okay, this looks like it's heading into a draw. At least let us not lose points on over rate. So it makes sense to bowl Travis Head. So it might have just been the pragmatic decision, and it just so turned out to be the match-turning one. Nitish Reddy...
as I said, so Australia were 27-1 at that point. The chances... they were out of that game and only a couple of overs to go. Then you have Nitish Reddy coming out, who, weirdly enough to me, I don't know how you felt, I just felt he looked a little bit unsure of himself. Everyone's allowed to start weirdly. I'm not questioning him as a batter or anything. But when he came out, from the minute he came out, I just thought to myself, "Oh, he's just not moving his feet right here. He looked a little bit sluggish. He might have been tired. I don't know, but just a little bit sluggish. That was a surprising wicket when he edged to first slip off Lathan Lyon.
It was, and I agree with you entirely. I also thought he looked a little bit not fully moving right. Not like he, in fact, the way he has looked in every other innings, even when he didn't get runs in Brisbane, he looked good, and he looked like a guy capable of batting at 5. So this time he just looked a little not all there, and which stiff. Was maybe stiff is the right word, and which was maybe down to, I don't know, still emotions surging from the first innings 100, or just a little bit unsure now that there is a bit more responsibility on him or more expectation. I think it's just the sort of things that any 21-year-old might go through. So I mean, this doesn't mean he can't handle pressure or anything, in case anyone was thinking that. But
I mean, it doesn't mean that at all. It just if you were watching the game, you were thinking to yourself, "Oh, he doesn't look quite right here." So he goes out, and then Jadeja.
I thought. I just thought he needs those 10-15 minutes to settle, and then he'll be fine. But he got out within those 10-15 minutes. So and then
Jadeja comes out to bat, and the ball from Scott Boland, I think it bounced 42 centimeters more than expected.
Oh, that's a huge amount. Okay.
I mean, I think if you've been batting for like an hour, you have a chance. So my big theory on this wicket was that it was very hard to start on, but once you got in, even especially as the ball softened, but even before the ball softened, I think once you got in, you might still make mistakes, but you could make sure that you weren't dismissed off them a little bit, right? You might need a little bit of luck like Jaiswal and Marnus, but I think you could do that. Whereas I think when you first came in, it was just doing enough weirdness that it was a hard wicket to understand. But that's the only ball we saw all day play up like that. We saw more balls play up yesterday when it came to bounce than we probably did today. And so suddenly Jadeja's gone. And then we have, I was positive that Washington was just going to nick off to Lyon, and he didn't. He got one edge, which I think just landed short of slip. There was a couple of other, half chances or quarter chances or however you want to look at it. Jaiswal had a little mini spell where it looked like he was trying to get out slashing for no reason over and over again, which I didn't quite understand. And then everything started to settle down and Cummins went back to the short ball.
Jaiswal, that spell, I think he was just looking to get rid of the silly point. I mean, like, hit it so hard that they take that fielder out. And then, Cummins, I think Cummins probably has an argument to have the best short ball in the business, no? I all series long, I remember one short ball that was off target by Cummins. One, which went over the keeper and went for 4 byes. Otherwise, not just this series, I remember a lot of people were talking about the Sydney draw in this test match. Where last series where Ashwin and Hanuma Vihari were batting injured. Before that, Pujara and Rishabh Pant had made runs. A lot of people were talking about that. So I was on ball-by-ball commentary for that match, so I saw every ball. And the amount of short-pitched bowling that Hazelwood, Cummins and Stark did was also a tribute to their fitness, but also to Ashwin and Hanuma Vihari for surviving that, because it was so on target. They were not missing. So you had to either take the blow to the body or rely on your technique to keep it down. And they kept doing that. So Cummins, I think the short ball with Cummins is just such a weapon. He's such a great bowler all round that you sometimes forget that he has this also. Like, have you seen? I think in the current game he has the best short ball.
Well, Wagner's retired, hasn't he? So
Wagner's retired. Yeah.
I was looking at his beehive of his wickets recently, and when you compare him to Rabada and Bumrah, you just realise how many more wickets he gets with a short ball than they do. And he doesn't feel like a bouncer bowler, right?
Yeah.
But it's not all of them from bouncers. A lot of them is just that uncomfortable length at kind of the bottom of your rib cage where he gets a lot of wickets as well. What did you think about the decision? Because there was no doubt in my mind watching it live that he hit it. There was no doubt in my mind for the first 3 replays he hit it. And then Snicko came up, and suddenly, I know the umpire had already said there was a deflection. We didn't hear that on the world feed, but I know they heard that on some of the other feeds.
We heard it on the India feed.
Oh, okay. We didn't get it on the... It's so weird what comes out on what feeds. It's so random. But so I didn't know that at the time. So I'm watching it going, well, I know he's hit this, but this might not be given out because the Snicko hasn't come up. And it looked like one of those ones where there was one in the... I reckon it was in this test match earlier where a ball had come off the face of the bat and Snicko didn't pick it up. So Snicko doesn't always pick up the balls off the face of the bat in the same way that it picks up edges. It's such a weird piece of kit. This is also why we should have hotspot. But like it was so obvious that he hit it. But you could see umpires give that not out. Like, I'm sure there are Indian fans still going, how could you give that out? I think it had to be overruled because the deviation was so massive. Like, unless it hit a friggin' fly, and I know the flies in Melbourne can get big. They're not that big, right? Unless it hit a fly, there's no way that ball could deviate like that.
Yeah. No, there was a clear deviation, for sure. My question is with, Snicko, like, how reliable is it? Because we have seen in Adelaide... KL Rahul was ready to walk off against Scott Boland before he was reprieved because it was a no ball. And then they showed the replay and Snicko picked up nothing. And then Mitch Marsh actually did walk off when he thought he had edged Ashwin. And then again Snicko picked up nothing. So, and now again Snicko has picked up nothing. So, that raises a question of how reliable is it and whether that should be the only thing to rely on. Because this here at least you could see the clear deviation. But in edges... You don't know, right, whether there is a faint edge or not just by visual evidence. You need the audio also.
No, I mean, exactly. The hotspot is such an important thing, and I know it cost them a fortune and they couldn't afford to do it, but it's like, you need both. That's why we have both. Because if we had a hotspot, no one would have had any problem. And I bet there are Indian fans quite rightly going, well, wait a minute, if we're using this technology has said this. But in that case, I don't know if you actually saw the Hawkeye, when the ball hits, it then veers off sideways. Like, once we saw the Hawkeye, no one was thinking it wasn't an edge. But even so, we have this technology and we've gone against it. So at that point, it's Washington and the tail. My big issue for India was really how they were going to get through the second new ball. But in the end, they didn't even get that far.
Yeah, at least it would have brought a possible overrate penalty into play, right? They didn't even do that. And I was just thinking, watching Akashdeep bat, like, this is where he should have been batting in the first innings. You shouldn't have sent him out as a night watchman in the first innings. This is where he should have been batting. And I thought even the Akashdeep dismissal, I mean, I think Akashdeep was also out because they showed like there was a red mark on the bat. But they showed that after the third umpire had made his decision. And I was like, is there enough to make a decision there? The spike didn't seem like very, convincing that it had hit the bat.
When I saw it live, I thought he definitely hit it. And the minute I started watching replays, I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've picked this up wrong. And I was, again, a bit like with the previous DRS, I was thinking to myself, I can see why an umpire would give this not out, as they gave it out. And again, not enough of the right angles and everything else, that was shown at that point. So another very, very bizarre moment. I think both of them probably hit it. But if you're an Indian fan, I could see how you'd be sitting there going, I'm not sure the evidence was 100% there. Having said that, I also thought the Jaiswal LBW on the field had to be given out. Like that, I just don't know how you don't give that out as an umpire. Like, I'm fine with it hitting the top of leg stump and everything else, but live that just looked so out. And that was it, wasn't it? From there on in, Australia was always going to get home. It's a huge effort from them. Everyone's gone on about them declaring too late, being too defensive. It took them ages to bring the field up, realistically, and they should have done it far earlier. Bowling Marnus, bowling Travis Head, bowling Mitchell Marsh, like all these different things that they did. But in the end, they had plenty of time, realistically, to get over the line without the wicket helping them all that much. I mean, they did it by sustained pressure rather than the pitch playing up.
True. They did it by sustained pressure, and that is the thing again that that is the contrast between the sides, that India's bowlers have not been able to maintain that sustained pressure. Like, you have Bumrah beating the bat 4 times in one over, and then often you have 8 runs coming off the next over. So and Australia just didn't give that. And when they did give a half tracker, Rishabh Pant conveniently hit it to Mitch Marsh. So the sustained pressure is what wins test matches, right? You don't win test matches with magic balls and something, a banana in swinger or something that moves up the seam like that. You win it by sustained pressure, and I think that is something that India need to also think about in terms of bowling, because have they picked the bowling attack to apply sustained pressure or not? Now they are in a must-win position if they want to retain the trophy. I think the WTC final is out of the question, but if they want to retain the Border Gavaskar trophy, they are in a must-win position. So they need to essentially pick an attack that gives them a better chance of 20 wickets. And to do that, they need to pick the batsmen that they think will give them the most runs. Who do you think that will be, Jarrod?
Well, let's go forward to the Sydney Test and try and work this out. So I thought that Virat would probably retire at the end of after the World Test Championship final. That was my guess. That is no longer on the cards as a viable option. So do they have a conversation with Virat now, right? And before you answer that, I thought Rohit Sharma was more likely to play in the England series. I don't think his form is anywhere near as dire as Virat's form is. I do think it is a couple of months. But a bad couple of months when you're that age, sometimes you just think, I've done everything I need to do. I was hoping to go out in the World Test Championship and then beat Baz ballers. That's not going to, one of those is not going to happen now. I could go out. You have conversations with both of those players if you're Gautam Gambhir and you're and Ajit Agarkar and all those people, don't you? Like, you have to have those conversations. But if they say they want to play on, do you drop them for Sydney?
Yeah. So the only thing I know is I want a hidden camera recording Gautam Gambhir having that conversation with Virat Kohli. That is going to be box office. Yeah. So, do you drop them? Now, Gautam Gambhir should be feeling some pressure too, right? Like, obviously, it's the players out in the middle who are not scoring the runs, so there is a spotlight on them. But his coaching tenure has been pretty as dire as their form. In fact, India lost a limited over series in Sri Lanka after like ages. The 3-0 against New Zealand at home. The reverses in Australia here when nobody expected them to be outright favourites, but there have been advantageous positions that have been let go of in this series.
Well, if you go from 1-0 up to 3-1 down, which hasn't happened yet, but if it does happen, you can understand why people are going to ask questions, right? And let's say they then go to England and they don't beat England. Like, Gautam Gambhir is probably a very big chance of losing his tenure. India hasn't been very quick with changing their coaches, but that's going to be three. And if they don't win the Champions Trophy and they don't beat England, it would be hard to see how he keeps that position. So think about this from a legacy point of view. If all that happens, and he is also the person who gets rid of Virat and Rohit, right? Wow, that's a lot of legacy to deal with. Like, the safer option for him is just to be like, we'll just pick him again and we'll worry about the rest for the next series.
It might kill two careers for him. He was an MP before, right? I don't see him getting elected ever again.
I can't imagine that. He runs on a platform. Well, his opposition runs on a platform of the man who stopped Virat from playing Test cricket. Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. So it's fascinating. I mean, it's also Bumrah plays in Sydney, but there is a conversation to be had that Bumrah must be near the red zone. Like, Mitch Starc is in the red zone quite clearly. Like, it's very possible Mitch Starc doesn't play in the Sydney Test. Bumrah seems to be in a similar thing where you just like, he must be one spell away from just a tweak or a niggle or something happening. You've got the Champions Trophy coming up in a couple of months. It wouldn't be beyond the pale. But they can't really drop Bumrah because he's their only chance of actually regaining the trophy, right? Like, everyone else has to play. The only two who you could make an argument for are Virat and Rohit. And it's a hell of an argument, right? Like, Rohit, you're basically saying that 4 months means he's never going to find form again, which I don't personally believe, but fine. With Virat, you've got, it's just the emotional bond. Like, it's funny, you and I work online and, there'll be comments here going, of course Virat should be dropped, blah, blah, blah. Listen to the people in the crowd at the MCG when he came out to bat. Those Indian fans were cheering like mad for him, right? It's all well and good for a couple of people to drop in some YouTube comments or on Twitter or on Blue Sky abusing him. When it comes down to it, it's full on the love and admiration for him. It is not easy to drop a player of that magnitude.
It is not, and I would say he has earned that also because of the absurd peaks he has hit, as a test batter. So he has earned the longer rope. People often speak about Pujara and Rahane were dropped for, lesser returns and all. But they had not hit the peaks that Virat Kohli had hit. So he has earned himself that long rope that he has. Where I think I disagree with you is that I agree that Rohit's form is just a bad form, is just a 4-month-old. But the suddenness and steepness of the fall has me a little more concerned than thinking that it's not permanent, because maybe it's a subconscious age bias at play also. He is old, so when somebody who is at that age has this kind of
everyone knows that.
So, but I don't, just for the listeners who are there. But when you are at that age, you're 37, 38, and you have that kind of a drastic drop off, like from here to here, then it does raise slightly more concerns than if it would have happened to, let's say, Yashasvi Jaiswal or a Shubman Gill or anyone of that.
Last thing I'm going to ask you, simple question. Would you pick Virat or Rohit for Sydney?
I would pick Virat. I would have a conversation with Rohit. And I'll let you know
I would
about
have a
that
conversation with both of them, to be fair. But I think if they both want to play, and they said that they didn't have any plans of retirement, I think I'm more likely to keep Rohit in the side than Virat at the moment. I think I'm more likely to think that Rohit's is just a temporary dip, whereas you know, Virat's is like 5 years of a dip at this stage. Like, you know, he's had his run and hasn't been able to do it. But these are not easy decisions, and it's very easy when you're online to fire off a Blue Sky or a Twitter or on Facebook about this.
And
it's not
actually,
easy
if
to
you
drop a player of that level.
And if you do drop them, there'll be equally comments abusing the fact that you dropped them.
Yes.
both will be there.
That is Saurabh Somani. I'm Jarrod Kimber. This is the Following on India podcast. We will be back. I'm not sure if we'll do a show in between the tests because there's only a couple of days, but we might come back. But even if we don't, we'll certainly be back after every day's play here on talkSPORT's cricket YouTube channel.